The most formidable man isn't the one with everything to gain, it's the one with nothing left to lose. Sit with that. In an era addicted to clout, curated images, and empty posturing, there walks an uncommon kind of man who remains utterly indifferent. He doesn't beg for approval. He doesn't grovel for praise. When the world falls silent, his resolve doesn't waver. He is the Sigma. And here's the hard truth no one dares to voice: he cannot be shattered. How? Where others dread solitude, he draws strength from it. Where most see rejection as defeat, he treats it as course correction. When life knocks him down, he doesn't weep or seek sympathy online. He disappears, only to return, honed like a blade. Science backs this. Research shows the strongest minds aren't the noisiest or most networked. They're the ones who rely on no one but themselves. To a Sigma, resilience isn't a trait, it's a creed. He's engineered himself to be emotionally armored, mentally untouchable, socially untraceable. While society scrambles to label, control, or dismantle him, he observes and evolves. And if you think you can fix him? Charming. Might as well try to leash a hurricane with a motivational poster. Let's cut through the noise. Here are 12 raw, unfiltered reasons a true Sigma is impervious to breaking. Brace yourself, some of these will land like a sledgehammer to your ego. Number 1, sovereignty over belonging. The Sigma doesn't fight for belonging, he fights for absolute sovereignty. Belonging is currency for those who need external validation to feel real, but the Sigma seeks something greater: complete ownership of his existence. While others twist themselves to fit into cliques, ideologies, movements, and echo chambers, the Sigma silently builds his own kingdom, not for popularity or acceptance, but for pure autonomy. Belonging demands compromise, groupthink, emotional loyalty tests, and unspoken conformity, conditions the Sigma sees as spiritual debts. To censor himself for acceptance? That's weakness. He doesn't want inclusion, he wants freedom. And freedom doesn't come with a social contract. This is the fundamental difference: others seek belonging, while he seeks invincibility. He explains nothing, asks no permission, and needs no clubs, labels, causes, or approval. He's not antisocial, he's post-social, having evolved beyond the need to belong. This makes him impossible to control. You can't manipulate him with rejection, he expects it; exclusion, he prefers it; or guilt and shame, he's immune. He never signed up for the game to begin with. This drives insecure people mad. They demand reactions, he gives silence. They push him to conform, he vanishes. When your entire life is built on belonging, the Sigma becomes your mirror, and the reflection is brutal. He's not chasing connection, he's chasing absolute clarity. Once achieved, no group can claim him, no trend can sway him, and no movement can recruit him. This isn't just rare, it's revolutionary. Society runs on compliant men, but the Sigma proves you can win without ever playing the game. Number 2, he keeps his morality private, because public ethics are currency, not compass. Most people wear their morals like fashion, loud, seasonal, and designed to impress the crowd. They post about kindness, loyalty, and justice when it's trending. But their values bend the second it becomes inconvenient. A true Sigma male? He's the opposite. His morality isn't for display. It's not a costume. It's a private code he follows, whether anyone's watching or not. He doesn't talk about it, hashtag it, or use it to score points. He just lives it. That's what makes him unbreakable. You can't manipulate a man who isn't performing for you. You can't cancel him, guilt trip him, or bait him into emotional chaos, because his ethics don't need your applause to stand firm. Most people shape their beliefs based on what will get them accepted. The Sigma doesn't care about acceptance. He cares about alignment. His internal compass isn't swayed by trends, social pressure, or outrage mobs. That compass is silent, sharp, and unshakable, and it guides every decision he makes without asking permission. And here's the kicker: since he keeps his values to himself, you never see him coming. While others are busy moralizing in public, he's already made a choice in private that most wouldn't have the spine to follow through on. He doesn't need you to agree with him. He doesn't need to explain himself. And he'll walk alone gladly if that's the price of staying true to his code. This is the kind of man who won't lie to save face. Won't cheat, even if he's never caught. Won't betray his own principles just to blend in. You can call him cold, detached, even arrogant. But deep down, there's a part of you that respects the hell out of that kind of integrity. Because in a world where people bend the truth like it's yoga, the Sigma stands like stone. That's why he's so hard to break. Not because he's loud, not because he's intimidating, but because his sense of right and wrong isn't borrowed or broadcast. It's private, permanent, and non-negotiable. And that kind of quiet conviction? That's bulletproof. Number 3, he's been mentally homeless before, now he builds his mind like a fortress. He's been through mental storms that would have made most men crawl to others, begging for support, identity, or just a reason to keep going. But a true Sigma male didn't do that. He didn't chase comfort. He didn't seek rescue when everything in his mind collapsed, his purpose, his confidence, even his will to continue. He didn't run from it. He sat with the wreckage. He studied it. And then, piece by brutal piece, he rebuilt himself. There was a time he had no direction, no internal ground to stand on. Thoughts scattered. Emotions numbed. Purpose hijacked by survival. That's mental homelessness, when your mind doesn't feel like home anymore. When you don't trust your own thinking, don't believe in your own value, and can't even see a future version of yourself worth becoming. Most people break at that point. They escape into addictions, relationships, or distractions. But the Sigma didn't escape. He endured. And more than that, he learned. Instead of patching himself up with fake optimism or shallow self-help, he built a fortress of truth. He learned how to be emotionally self-sufficient, how to think without noise, how to suffer without losing himself. Every mental breakdown became blueprints. Every low point became leverage. Every internal failure became fuel. Now, his mind is no longer a place he fears. It's where he goes to recharge. It's where his power lives. It's silent, impenetrable, and wired for clarity. And when the world tries to shake him, it always fails, because his foundation isn't built on validation or outside stability. It's built on what he earned through brutal self-confrontation. That's why you can't break him. You're trying to crack a man who's already lived broken. And instead of hiding the scars, he used them as structure. His mind is no longer fragile. It's fortified. He's not just unshaken by chaos. He's shaped by it. That kind of resilience doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It just stands. And nothing moves it. Number 4, he embraces solitude, even in death. The Sigma male has made peace with dying alone, and this realization sets him free. While most people cling to relationships or legacy as shields against mortality's harsh truth, the Sigma stares death in the face, and shrugs. He requires no promises of eternity. No audience to validate his worth. No one to mourn him or carry his name forward. The thought of dying alone doesn't haunt him, it clarifies him. It strips away life's illusions, revealing only what truly matters. This is what makes him dangerous. Most are enslaved by fear. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of being unloved. Fear of dying unnoticed. These fears dictate their choices, making them compromise who they are for acceptance, remembrance, or false security. The Sigma plays a different game. He knows time is finite. The end is certain. Rather than deny it, he uses this knowledge as fuel. He doesn't dilute his essence to please others. Doesn't soften his edges for comfort. Doesn't waste energy seeking approval, because ultimately, no one is coming to save him. No one keeps score. No opinion outlasts death's silence. This is why he lives fearlessly, not recklessly. Why he doesn't beg when people leave. Doesn't collapse when systems fail. Doesn't grovel for love, attention, or validation. He needs no witness to his journey, he is the witness. How do you break a man like this? What leverage exists against someone who doesn't fear dying alone? Doesn't crave connection? Doesn't need recognition? There is nothing more untouchable than a man who has confronted his mortality, accepted it, and continues forward as if it's just another day. Number 5, he's more strategic than emotional, even with himself. The Sigma doesn't let emotions drive the car, they ride in the back seat while strategy holds the wheel. He might feel deeply, but he doesn't let feelings dictate his decisions. When most people spiral, he studies. When they react, he calculates. And the most striking part? He applies that same detached precision even to himself. If he feels weak, he doesn't collapse into victim mode or seek comfort, he dissects the feeling. Why am I tired? What triggered this insecurity? Where's the pattern? It's not coldness, it's discipline. He treats every emotional flare-up like battlefield intel, not something to drown in, but something to decode. The Sigma isn't anti-emotion, he's above emotional confusion. He knows emotions, while real, can lie, they're loud, reactive, and temporary. He doesn't suppress them, but he sure as hell doesn't worship them either. Instead, he gathers the data and uses it to sharpen his approach. If he's afraid, he logs it. If he's angry, he traces the source. If he's hurt, he examines where the breach occurred, then moves accordingly. This is why he doesn't get stuck. He doesn't wallow or act out, he upgrades. Even in his darkest hours, he's strategic. While most people let pain consume them, he mines it. Every heartbreak becomes a lesson, every loss becomes leverage, and every failure becomes field experience. Nothing is wasted. He doesn't numb emotion, but he doesn't obey it either. You can't manipulate a man like this. Guilt, flattery, and rage won't throw him off. He's trained himself to pause before reacting, assess before exploding, and plan instead of panic. That gives him a level of control most will never touch, not just over others, but over himself. In a world that's emotionally fragile, the Sigma is emotionally engineered. That's not coldness. That's mastery. Number 6, he has made rock bottom his training ground. The Sigma male has mentally rehearsed failure so thoroughly that it no longer frightens him, it bores him. While most people freeze at the thought of what if, he has already lived through every worst-case scenario in his mind 10 times over. Total failure? Been there. Isolation? Familiar. Public humiliation, betrayal, financial ruin, physical danger? He has visualized them all in brutal, unflinching detail. This is his advantage. Where others fantasize about success, he prepares for collapse. His quiet self-interrogation cuts to the bone. What happens when I lose everything? Who am I when no one applauds? How will I respond when those I trust turn on me? These aren't passing worries, they are psychological drills, mental boot camps. So when disaster strikes in reality, it doesn't shock him. It feels like déjà vu. He has already mapped the terrain, sat with the pain, and charted his way out. Pain isn't an enemy to him, it's an old sparring partner. Most people break not because life is hard, but because they expected it to be easy. The Sigma never had that illusion. He assumed life would be war, and built himself accordingly. Threats don't shake him. Loss doesn't paralyze him. Insults don't cut deep. He has visited rock bottom so often in his mind that when he arrives there in reality, it feels like a homecoming. The fear that controls others? He has drained it of all power. When you can't intimidate a man with failure, shame him with loss, or rattle him with disaster, you cannot break him. Rock bottom isn't an end to him, just another room he has already toured. And this is where the Sigma lives, outside the grip of fear, beyond the reach of those who mistake his calm for weakness. Number 7, he opts out of the emotional stock market. The Sigma male is emotionally sovereign. He has disconnected from the world's frenetic emotional stock market, the dizzying spikes and crashes of public opinion, outrage cycles, and collective mood swings. While most people are leveraged to the hilt, obsessed with being liked, terrified of cancellation, addicted to the dopamine of validation, the Sigma has cashed out entirely. He doesn't trade in that market. His currency is self-contained. He doesn't chase trends to seem relevant. Doesn't adjust his values to match the cultural temperature. Doesn't echo popular sentiment for safety. That volatility is poison to him, because when your emotions rise and fall with the crowd, you disappear without realizing it. The Sigma remains grounded in his own system. His self-worth isn't tied to likes, attention, or groupthink. It is stable, silent, and unshakable. He doesn't need the world's agreement to know he's right. Doesn't require viral approval to validate his beliefs. Doesn't chase applause or fear backlash. This is why he radiates that eerie calm while others panic, posture, and react. He watches, detached, a man who has seen the cycle repeat too many times to be fazed. Popularity doesn't excite him. Controversy doesn't scare him. Emotional noise doesn't sway him, because none of it carries real weight. He understands that today's hero is tomorrow's villain, that today's outrage will be forgotten next week, that most people don't have convictions, they have moods. And you can't build a life on the whims of the crowd. So he doesn't. He builds on principles, not popularity. Discipline, not dopamine. Alignment, not applause. This is why you can't destabilize him. Can't bait him with trends. Can't guilt-trip him with fashionable morality or manipulate him with approval. He has withdrawn from the emotional stock market, and in a world addicted to trading in it, that makes him untouchable. Number 8, he's turned emotional starvation into spiritual supremacy. The Sigma knows what it's like to go without emotional oxygen, the warmth most people take for granted, unconditional love, empathy, softness. He was either denied it or had it ripped away early. But here's the twist, it didn't destroy him. It refined him. Most who are emotionally starved become desperate or broken. The Sigma became sovereign. He didn't beg for sympathy or approval. He didn't spiral into addiction or emotional dependency. Instead, he sat with the hunger. He felt every ache, every absence, every brutal silence, and alchemized it. He learned to generate his own meaning, his own motivation, his own damn sense of worth. He stopped needing emotional rescue. And in that silence, where others would have crumbled, he built something most never glimpse, spiritual supremacy. A deep, unshakable connection to himself. A strength that doesn't flinch when love is absent because it's no longer a need, it's a bonus. You can't manipulate a man like that. You can't punish him by withholding affection or playing emotional games. You're trying to starve someone who's learned to fast, trained himself to thrive on emptiness, and built emotional muscle where most only have need. The Sigma doesn't fear being unloved, He's already lived there and emerged sharper, calmer, and more in control. The lack of emotional nourishment didn't leave him empty. It left him pure, no delusions, no dependency, just clarity. And that clarity is power. He doesn't chase connection to feel whole, he chooses it only when it aligns. If not, he walks away, without bitterness, without drama, without looking back. He's not closed off, he's disciplined. He won't beg for what he knows how to live without. So when people try to break him by withdrawing love, attention, or care, they realize too late, they're playing a game he's already won. You can't starve a man who's learned to feed off nothing and still grow stronger. Number 9, he's so used to losing alone, he's forgotten what dependence feels like. The Sigma doesn't panic when things fall apart, because they've fallen apart before, over and over. And each time, he was the one left holding the wreckage alone. He doesn't romanticize resilience, he didn't choose solitude because it sounded powerful. He was forced into it long before he understood what it meant. Loss trained him. Betrayal educated him. Silence became his mentor. He's been let down without warning, rejected without reason, and abandoned without explanation. After enough of that, something shifts, not into bitterness, but into detachment. While others cling to emotional safety nets and social support, the Sigma operates as if they don't exist, not because he's heartless, but because he knows they're not guaranteed. He's been ghosted at rock bottom. He's buried his pride with no one watching. He's rebuilt not just his life, but his sense of self, with no cheerleaders, no help, and no audience. Now, he no longer expects support. He doesn't lean, because he's forgotten what it feels like to fall into someone's arms and actually be caught. Dependence, to him, is a foreign language. The only thing he's fluent in? Self-reliance. That's what makes him unbreakable. While others panic when the backup disappears, he expects it. While others fold when betrayed, he shrugs. While others need encouragement to keep going, he doesn't even look back. In his world, pain isn't a rare disaster, it's built into the operating system. Suffering doesn't slow him down or shake him, it confirms he's on the path. You can't weaponize loneliness against a man who treats solitude like home. You can't use loss as leverage when it's been his most consistent companion. You can't shake someone who no longer fears being alone, because aloneness is where he sharpened every tool he has. He's not detached because he's bitter. He's detached because the world taught him to hold nothing too tightly. And when a man is that untethered, that unfazed by loss, and that trained in silence, you don't break him. You just waste your energy trying. Number 10, he plays dumb so you overestimate yourself. The Sigma doesn't show all his cards, he never does. He understands the power of being underestimated, so he plays dumb. Not out of insecurity, but out of pure calculation. While others waste energy trying to impress, dominate, or prove their intelligence, he remains silent, letting you believe he's slower, less capable, or disengaged. But he's not behind, he's 10 moves ahead. He just refuses to let you see it. Ego is a liability, and the Sigma knows this better than anyone. When people think they've outclassed someone, they get sloppy. They reveal too much, flex too hard, and talk like they own the room, never realizing they've walked straight into his framework. That's when he starts collecting data, who you really are, where your insecurities sit, and what patterns you fall into when you think no one's watching. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't correct you. He lets you believe the illusion because the longer you think you've got him figured out, the more blind you become to what he's actually capable of. It's a strategy older than warfare, appear weak when you are strong. The Sigma isn't passive, he's setting traps with silence. And when it matters, he strikes, quietly, precisely, without warning. That's what makes him unbreakable. You never see the full version of him until it's too late. You might think you've outsmarted him, embarrassed him, or exposed a flaw. But the truth? He let it happen just to study how you move. He doesn't chase respect, he collects information. Every boast, every subtle insult, every move you think makes you look superior, he logs it. Later, he uses it, not for revenge, but for dominance without noise. You can't break a man who never shows his full strength. You can't corner someone who's already mapped out the room before you walked in. He looks unbothered, disinterested, maybe even slow to react. But that's the trick. The Sigma isn't lagging behind, he's letting you lead yourself off a cliff. Number 11, he doesn't fear being hated, he respects it. The Sigma doesn't flinch when people hate him. He doesn't soften his edges to be more palatable or water down his truth so fragile egos can digest it. He understands something most never learn, being hated isn't a threat, it's confirmation. If you're hated, you've moved something. You've disrupted comfort. You've forced confrontation. And that's a sign of power, not weakness. Most people are terrified of being disliked. They shapeshift constantly to avoid criticism, over-explain themselves, and apologize for existing too loudly. Not the Sigma. He's not addicted to being liked, he's addicted to being real. And realness comes with resistance. He knows that in a world of fake smiles and shallow virtue, truth-tellers don't get applause. They get labeled, misunderstood, rejected, hated. And he respects that process, because if everyone agrees with you, you're either saying nothing important or nothing honest. Hatred, to the Sigma, is emotional proof that he's on the radar. You don't waste energy hating someone irrelevant, you hate someone who challenges you, exposes your blind spots, or dares not to need your approval. That's where the Sigma lives. He doesn't provoke hate just to be edgy, but he doesn't avoid it either. If it comes, it comes. And when it does, he doesn't whine or retaliate, he analyzes. Who's hating me? Why? What are they projecting? More importantly, what does their reaction reveal about their fears? You can't manipulate him with shame. You can't gaslight him into people-pleasing. He's already made peace with being the villain in someone else's story. There's a reason the Sigma can't be broken, and it's not because he's invincible. It's because he's already been broken and came back without needing to be saved. His strength isn't loud or performative. It's in his restraint, his discipline, his refusal to need anything from a world that trades souls for social validation. While others beg for permission to exist, he's building an empire of self, brick by silent brick. You can't shame him. You can't guilt him. You can't lure him with cheap rewards or threaten him with isolation. He's already felt those fires, and instead of burning, he forged. Take everything from him, and you won't destroy him. That's when he becomes dangerous, because the Sigma doesn't just survive the storm. He becomes it. His mind is a fortress built from solitude, discipline, and brutal self-awareness. His emotions aren't liabilities, they're weapons he's mastered through pain. His loyalty is rare, earned, and never exploited. He doesn't advertise his values, chase applause, or crave followers. He walks his own road, not to be different, but because the crowd never leads to truth. The Sigma isn't a man you want to break, because you never really know if he's already broken himself on purpose, just to see what was left. And what was left? That's what's indestructible. Number 12, he doesn't break down, he goes dark and evolves. When most people hit their emotional limit, they explode. They vent, spiral, overshare, and desperately seek validation to stitch themselves back together. But the Sigma doesn't break like that. He doesn't broadcast his pain. He doesn't melt down in front of others or beg for emotional scaffolding. When pushed to the edge, he doesn't scream, he goes dark. And that darkness isn't depression. It's transformation. The moment everything feels like it's falling apart, he doesn't look outward. He withdraws, not to escape, but to strategize. He isolates to remove the noise, strip away fake narratives, and confront the raw version of himself most people run from. While others drown in drama, the Sigma is underground, quietly rewiring everything. This is where evolution happens. You think he's ghosted. You think he's broken. You think he's fading out. But what's actually happening? A full internal rebuild. While the world assumes he's down, he's upgrading his thought process, strengthening his emotional armor, burning dead weight, sharpening his clarity, deleting outdated beliefs, rewriting his mental code, resetting his internal compass. When he reemerges, he's not just better, he's new. You don't get version 1.1, you get version 2.0, calmer, colder, smarter, and utterly detached from what once had power over him. What hurt him before can't even reach him now. What triggered him last time doesn't register. And what you thought would break him, it just forged the next level of who he is. That's why trying to break a Sigma is a losing game. Even when he's bleeding, he's building. Even when he's in pain, he's processing, not reacting emotionally, but strategizing. He doesn't crumble, he converts. He doesn't rage, he refines. And while others are still licking their wounds, he's already operating at a higher level, with no announcement, no explanation, no need for applause. His darkness isn't dysfunction. It's the womb of his next evolution. And by the time you realize he was never broken, he's already too far ahead to catch. That's not just resilience. That's lethal self-mastery. Thank you for watching.